Okay, so you know it's a good episode when after 13 minutes of reviewing said episode, there are still a lot of questions that people are asking, that you yourself asking, in this case yourself would be me, and when a lot of topics are being brought up as the product of the airing of said episode. So hello and welcome back guys to another one of my The 100 videos, and on this video I'm going to be talking about all those questions that you posted in the comments to my review video, and the ones that you posted as well in the comments to my community post, you know, the one where I asked you if I should do this video, create and upload this Q&A/theory video. Now I do not want to go into lengthy introductions, so what I'm going to do over here is just remind you that I'm also talking theories, you know, all the theories out there about the situation post the airing of this episode, and I'm going to be commenting with my thoughts over these theories, especially the ones that were posted in the comments to my video. Okay, let's start with the first question, a question about Nightblood. So, if everyone who left the bunker with Calliope or Callie and August were actually inoculated with the Nightblood, were actually vaccinated with it, why did we get to hear on previous seasons that some people did not really have the Nightblood, and only people with the Nightblood were allowed to fight for the Flame? Well, it's really simple. That first generation, they all had Nightblood. It's like anything when it comes to genetics. You might inherit it, you might not. You might just inherit the original blood that these people had. You know, our usual red, non-black blood. And that's the case with some people. It's the same thing that we did watch with the Primes. That's why they had nulls. That's why they threw those nulls out. The Primes on Sanctum were Eligius missions. They were provided with the blood, the Night Blood. All of them. None of them went in without the Night Blood. But genetically speaking, some of them did not really pass down the Nightblood to their kids. That's why there were nulls, as I just mentioned, and that's why there were nulls on Earth as well. They were not called nulls, but they were nulls. That would explain as well the situation with someone like Emory. I mean, Emory did not have the blood. Emory ended up having a deformity because she did not have the blood. A question that could be posed in this case is, how did Emory survive? I'd say the radiation levels were not the same 100 years later. I'd say they were not the same 50 years later after the incident, after Judgment Day. I mean, you could take the situation with the 100 when they first landed on Earth on Season 1 as an example. These guys did not have Nightblood, but the radiation was completely gone, or almost completely gone, and that's why they were able to survive. The same would apply to Emory. She was born at a time where the radiation was kind of reduced significantly, you know, over the course of the years, but not completely, which means she was susceptible to being impacted by the radiation, you know, getting that deformity, but not necessarily to losing her life, like completely. Remember here as well, and before you make a comment about this, Emory is a Nightblood right now, but she wasn't always a Nightblood. Both her and Murphy only became Nightbloods during the events of Season 6. But that though was our first door. Behind our second door is the second question. What's up with Clarke? Does she really remember Calliope or Callie? You know, as per that conversation that she was having with her father, Bill Cadogan. Well, the answer is maybe yes and maybe no. I mean, a lot of people have determined that Clarke is tricking Bill Cadogan, that Clarke doesn't remember anything about Calliope. On the other hand, I personally think it's a possibility. I think that she might remember Calliope. I mean, she had the flame in her. Maddie had the flame in her. Sheidheda is the last person we know on the series at this point who's still alive that had the flame in him. And all three of them could remember stuff out of the flame. Not necessarily, but possibly. Not necessarily everything either, but possibly bits and pieces. That's why Maddie's got all those drawings, you know, she's remembering stuff out of the memories, out of the flame. But tricking Cadogan or not, I'm pretty certain, or almost certain, that they know all about Clarke not having the flame in her. I mean, they went through the memories of Octavia. Octavia does know that she removed the flame, you know, Clarke removed the flame, so they probably know the same. So the question here is, are they actually looking for the flame? And I think not. We know it's not the case. They're not really looking for the flame. They're looking for that one code that would unlock that one portal that Becca unlocked on this week's episode. You know, the one that she denied Bill Cadogan the code to. That's what he's looking for. He doesn't really care about the flame. He cares about that one functionality going through that one portal, and he's definitely obsessed with it. Now, does Clarke remember the codes to that stone? I don't think so. She might remember the code but not understand what it is for, but I don't think she remembers the codes to the stone. I think the one person that would remember that would be Maddie. possibly Sheidheda as well, but Maddie is most probably the key to all of this, not Clarke. That's a mistake that they're making, and they're going to realize there's someone else out there that they need to get to in order to unlock that functionality. But question number 3 is all about Callie. Is Callie the first Flame Keeper, or is she the second commander? First of all, I'd like to say that Becca wasn't really the first commander. She didn't really command anyone, so technically she was not really the first commander. I think that the entire first commander Prime had a situation with Becca that was an honorary title, probably as well given to her by none other than Callie. We do not know for sure if Callie ever put the flame into herself, into her own neck, so we're not even sure if she was ever the second commander. But if that were to be the case, I'd say she was both. She started off as a Flame Keeper, but ended up becoming the second commander. If we could consider that wielding the flame alone would make a person a commander, I'd say over here that she was the first commander from a realistic perspective, but the second one from a technical perspective. But alright though, the fourth question is about Sheidheda. Is Sheidheda actually Reese, or is he a descendant of Reese? We cannot know for sure. It is possible that he is a descendant of Reese. I wouldn't say he's Reese because of the end of the episode. You know, the guy had some sort of regret. He wasn't totally happy with the burning of Becca. He wasn't totally happy with what his father did to his mother. So if anything, I'd think he joined up with his sister, you know, decided to be part of that grounder group because of the feeling of guilt. That would definitely not add up in the sense that Sheidheda is a murderous maniac and this guy is on the way to redemption, possibly on the way to redemption. Another thing as well about Sheidheda is he was the champion of Sheidheda crew. He was born into Sheidheda crew, so it doesn't make a lot of sense that Sheidheda, you know, the man born in that crew, the man who ended up being the conqueror of all the other crews out there, was actually Reese. A descendant maybe, but most probably not Reese himself. You've also got to remember that he was at the top of his ruthlessness, at the top of his power, at the top of his own strength as well. When Indra as a child met him or saw him for the first time, you know, that entire story that she told him a couple of episodes ago. Now, if he were to be Reese, that would mean that Reese would be in his 70s, maybe even 80s when they met. And once again, with everything that we know about Sheidheda and Indra, you know, once again with everything we know about Sheidheda and his subsequent demise, I don't really think he was 70 or 80 when he first conquered Tricro. But here though is another question. Whatever happened to losing memories when passing through the anomaly without the helmet on? Why is that not applying to anyone, not in the past and not in the present? I think the answer is really simple. We've got a few rules that were established, and that is either by having them said out loud on one episode or the other, or by being implied on one of these episodes. Okay, so it has been established that you lose your memories when you pass through the anomaly without a helmet, but that's only triggered by two things. One, the anomaly has got to go down, so while the anomaly is up, you don't really lose your memories. That is why Hope remembered Octavia at the beginning of the season and the last season. You know, she still remembered her, but only lost her memories when the anomaly went down. And the second one happens to be all about where you're passing to. What is the time difference, the time passage difference in terms of the time dilation from the place you're passing to the place you're passing from? So helmet or not, if you're passing from a place where time is moving slower to a place where time is moving faster, you do not lose your memories. But if you're moving the other way around, you know, from a place where time is moving faster to a place where time is moving slower, you lose your memories if you don't have that helmet on. Let us first apply that to all these new moons and planets, and then apply it to Earth and the situation with Bill Cadogan in the flashbacks to this week's episode. Okay, so starting with the current planets and moons, let's talk about Sanctum. Sanctum is the slowest moving of them all in terms of time passage. So if you're moving from Sanctum to Bardo, Skyring, or Nakara, you should not lose your memories, even when not having a helmet on. On the other hand though, if your trip was the other way round, you're moving from one of those other three to Sanctum, you should lose your memories if you don't have your helmet on and once the anomaly goes down. Now in terms of time passage, Nakara is the second planet on the list. So if you're moving from Nakara to either Bardo or Skyring, you wouldn't lose your memories, but if you're moving from either of those two other planets to Nakara, you should lose your memories if you're not wearing the helmet and once the anomaly goes down. But that leaves us with Bardot and Skyring, the relationship between them. In terms of time passage, Bardot is the second fastest after Skyring, or if you want to look at it from the other side of the list, it is the third slowest. That means that moving from Bardot to Skyring would ensure that you don't lose your memories, but moving from Skyring to Bardot would guarantee a loss of memories, again, if you're not wearing a helmet. Now that part explained, let's look at the part with Bill Cadogan on this most recent episode. He went through an anomaly and he came back. Well, he went through while he was on that other side. The anomaly was never shut down, which means that he couldn't lose his memories even if that other planet was moving at a slower pace. Now, I would assume that if two planets were moving at the same pace, you wouldn't lose your memories. You know, it is neutral on both sides. You just pass through or come back, you wouldn't lose your memories. I'm assuming that Bardot moves at the same pace as Earth, and that's why he never lost his memories on either side. That or Earth was moving at a faster pace, and that's why his memories were still intact when he came back. Still, I think it would make more sense for the first assumption to hold true. You know, same pace, so helmet or not, there is no change there, no impact on the memories of the passing person. But there's one major question over here. Where was the stone when all these people headed into the bunker on a previous season? I think it was moved, possibly moved, most probably moved. That's the reason why the stone isn't active. It is kept in a place that makes it inactive. It is either that or it was destroyed. I can think Callie or her brother who might have joined her ended up destroying it so that her father cannot make it back, cannot force them into anything, you know, hating over him, over what he did to their mother. That's why there is one planet that is always inactive. That much has been made clear by Raven. I think that planet is Earth. Not just because it was destroyed as of recently, but because the stone was destroyed in the first place, like long ago. That's a possibility, not saying I'm certain, but that's what I think over here. So I'm kind of theorizing based on all the information that we have, coming to the most logical conclusion that I could think of. Now, there's a theory out there that I totally agree with. I mean, I think Maddie could be the key, but it is possible that all of this is being played in the right direction, that the return of Sheidheda is not just haphazard, not just about another storyline, but he might actually be the key. I mean, think about it this way. 3 people on the series at this point had the flame in them at one point or the other. Clarke, Maddie, and Sheidheda, they all probably have residual memories out of the flame. I mean, Sheidheda would have the most memories because he's had the flame in him the longest, so it is possible that he is the key. It is possible that he will rise as one of two things. You know, the hero in all of this, which would be really weird considering the character. Or there is the other scenario where we would end up with a coalition between him and Bill Cadogan, and that's a scary thought really. I mean, we would have a Legion of Doom kind of situation. And if you're not getting my reference here, it's Neil McDonough playing Anders on this series, played Damien Dark on Arrow in Legends of Tomorrow. Legends of Tomorrow, he was part of the villainous team-up, Legion of Doom. Yeah, bad joke. But yeah though, if that were to be the case, that would be a scary thought. They'd have to deal with the biggest and shittiest villains combined, and at the same time. By shittiest, I mean the most difficult to defeat villains rather than the worst portrayed, because they're really well portrayed villains. But alright, there's another door with another question. Where was Hope at the end of the episode? You know, when he asked them to bring in their friends, where was Hope in all of this? Well, first of all, there are 2 plausible answers to this question, both equally plausible actually. The first one is that Hope is not really one of Clarke's friends. She's the daughter of Dioza. Clarke and everyone on this team never met Hope, so it doesn't make sense to bring Hope in. That's a possibility. She's standing out there with the rest of those people in the suits and in the helmets. But there's always the other plausible justification. You know, Dioza has always been protective of her. She never wanted her to end up a warrior or end up a fighter, and that's exactly what's going down over here. She made a deal with Anders. Okay, I'll help you. I'll join your team. I'll fight for you. I will become your disciple. But the one thing I don't want is for my daughter to be involved in this. That could have been part of the deal. I mean, Dioza is one fighter that they do want on their side. Hope not necessarily, not as much. But Dioza, Octavia, and even Echo, these people have had fighting, have had the skills for it since long ago, and they would be a great asset to the Bardoan team, to the Second Dawn team. But if I'm talking about comments and questions and comments, I also want to share with you a funny one. So, this one comment thread, I wouldn't be surprised if Thanos came up looking for the stone after everything that has happened in this series. You know, a reference to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, kind of mildly funny, but then the responses made it even funnier. What if the anomaly is actually functioning on the Infinity Stones? And there was the other response, he probably is Judgment Day. Now, there are a lot of questions that are being asked about everything that happened in the past after that point that we watched on this episode. I don't think these are questions to answer right now. I think these are questions for the prequel series. Remember, this episode, just like the Green Arrow and the Canaries episode on the final season of Arrow, is a backdoor pilot to another series. So everything that happens beyond this point in the time period pertaining to this episode is actually for that other series and not for this one. It's not a question that I think is going to be answered on the 100. It's not really a question that I'm worried about right now or I care for right now. I think we should just wait until they pick up that series, if they do pick it up, the CW that is, and if they do, then we start asking those questions. But here's another thought though, you know, Callie and Reese are fighting for the flame. That's the first conclave. That is most probably how the tradition was established. But here's a funny thing, references and callback could be to multiple things, could refer to multiple things. It's not a mutual exclusivity kind of situation. So this possibly and most probably being the first conclave, what said the tradition does not really negate that this could be a callback to Bellamy and Octavia fighting within the bunker. I mean brother and sister, Bellamy and Octavia, like brother and sister, Reese and Callie fighting each other within the same bunker. It's easily a callback to that. But behind the next door is a theory that was posted on my video. You know, Judgment Day, the one that Becca was talking about, is the hell that Murphy went into at the beginning of Season 6 on Sanctum. And that's really a possibility. That makes a lot of sense. That would throw my time travel theory right out of the window. And I agree, it's possible that my theory is not correct, that this is not how the series will go. And in that case, the first person to hint at all of this, all that's going on, the stones, what's behind the stones, was actually Murphy. But alright though, one last thing to talk about over here before I end this video, which is going back and circling back to my time travel theory. Now there's all the talk that JR said there will be no time travel. He never really said there will be no time travel. What he actually said is that the anomaly itself is about time dilation, which negated time travel, automatically negated that. But here's the thing though, we're not really talking about the anomaly. The anomaly is but one functionality of that stone, and there are other functionalities as indicated 2 episodes ago. Here's another thing though, in order for Anders and the Second Dawn and Bill Cadogan to talk about war that would end all wars, you could think that they could either see the future, you know, they know there's gonna be a war that would lead to a lot of wars and they want to stop or win that war in order for all those other subsequent wars not to happen in the first place, to be ended and culled at source. Or they are possibly talking about a war in the past, so that makes a lot of sense too. I mean, they know about a war in the past that would lead to a lot of subsequent wars. You know, everything that happened on Earth. The Grounders, their different factions, Sheidheda, Mount Weather, the 100 themselves, all of that stuff. But here though is one final point. Okay, so let's say JR said there's no time travel in the context of the anomaly. I'd understand why he did that. I'd understand why he'd do that, because you don't really want to give the biggest piece of the puzzle before the final season does air. You don't want to tell people this. And he's still not lying because he was talking about the anomaly. The anomaly itself has nothing to do with time travel. That is but one functionality of the stone, and he managed to use that in order to be coy about it and not tell us there's time travel involved with another functionality of the stone, because back then he wouldn't either tell us that there is another functionality because the guy doesn't want to spoil a season that is yet to air. Just ask yourself the question, what would you do if you were going to use time travel and you are in JR's place? Would you just say, yes, there's going to be time travel, I'm going to spoil the entire new season? Or were you going to be coy about it and try to answer the question without lying, but in a different context, in a context that would allow you to tell the truth, you know, be credible and all of that stuff, but still not give up the biggest piece of the puzzle, not give up the biggest event in the series? Once again, I'm not really defending this theory. I mean, it is a possibility, so there is a probability it won't happen. There is a probability it will happen, but it is nonetheless a possibility, is all I'm saying. That said though, my work here is done, so let me know in the comments down below if I answered all the questions regarding this episode. It was one of the best episodes. My apologies for that one mistake on the review video. I mean, it was August that named the serum the Nightblood and not Callie. I misheard it there watching it the first time around. I had to go back and check when someone commented about it. But yeah, it was August and not Callie. You can also let me know if I commented on all those theories that you posted on my review video in the comments there. I'm going to, and as usual, be responding to all the comments on both videos, but I just tried to select here the most common questions, you know, the ones that keep coming back, and the ones that I keep keying in the responses to repeatedly over the comments of my review video. That said as well, let me know if you did like this video by dropping it one of those much appreciated likes, subscribing to this channel, and make sure while you're at it to enable notifications in order to get updates whenever I upload a new video, publish a new community post, or start a new live stream. But until the next time that you tune in for another one of my videos, the 100 or otherwise, thank you so much for tuning into this one, stay safe, and have a great day.